the ANC says it's on course with finalising the outstanding work of its 55th National Conference. That's according to the party's newly elected Secretary-General Fikile Mbalalula, who addressed the media in Nasrec earlier. Mbalalula says the conference is electing additional NEC members while outstanding reports will be adopted. Meanwhile, re-elected ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa faces the task of restoring public support for the governing party. Markets are said to have welcomed the news as a sign of continuity in economic policy. Right, let's cross now to SABC News political reporter Natasha Phiri, who's standing by for us at Nasrec. A very good afternoon to Natasha. I understand some delays. What are we waiting for?
Well, we're still playing the waiting game. We do know that some delegates are still voting for those 80 additional members that will comprise of I beg your pardon, 80 additional NEC members. And of course, we then do know that, some of the reports haven't even been commissioned or deliberated upon in plenary. But actually, just to talk to us, we're joined by our political editor, Mzwandile Mbeche, and of course, we'll just be unpacking a number of issues. Mzwandile, thank you so much for joining us. Of course, the waiting game. We had anticipated that by this time, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa would be addressing delegates and closing this conference.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Well, I guess we were deliberately naive, knowing how they conduct their business. Number one, they started almost a day late. Clearly, there's a lot of catch-up that they have to do. In fact, if you go back to 2017, I remember we went right into the next day and they did not start late. So that tells you that it's still a long way. We haven't had anything in terms of the report back, in terms of the commissions. That speech from the president, a closing address or an opening statement, whatever you call it, so hasn't happened. So clearly, those things are really problematic at the moment. But what I think will happen, because it looks like the delegates are quite tired as well, so they may probably jump some of the things. And I think what they will do as time goes on, once they have concluded with the adoption of the reports at the plenary, then the president will be called, where the president will do the closing address and of course do to call it the acceptance speech, because he hasn't spoken to us since being re-elected. So it's quite interesting that they are running this late. We had been told that they wanted to be done here by 3 o'clock, and 3 o'clock is actually an hour away, so you can see. And even the weather conditions are not permitting at this stage, so it's quite difficult. So yeah, it's one of those things, but it's, I guess, the conferences of this nature normally go in this fashion.
But I'm quite concerned that, and you've seen this in previous times, especially from the provincial conferences of the ANC, it seems as if delegates are always preoccupied about, electing officials of the ANC. And then you have the policies of the ANC that take a back seat. Yesterday we asked this question. This question was posed to the newly elected Secretary-General of the ANC, Mr. Fikile Mbalalula, and he had said that such is not the case, that, the policy documents of the party were actually discussed as early as the provincial conferences. But you found some provincial conferences were marred by the election of delegates and the policies took the back seats. This is exactly what we're seeing right now.
I think if they do not want to modernize and come up with a different approach, honestly, we will continue to suffer. Because remember, this is a governing party, Natasha. Everything that they do here must translate into the communities they serve. If the people who are entrusted with the responsibility of serving communities, looking at the details of what exactly to do, are not able to spend great time in terms of detailing that, it's really a problem. In fact, you can't be preoccupied with leadership. Okay, leadership is done and dusted now. So what is it that you've come here for in terms of policy? So is the basic income grant happening? So, things like those. South Africans are waiting out there. What sort of policies and measures are you going to put in place to make sure that service delivery happens quite quickly? So I suspect one of the things they may have to look at really is how they reconfigure themselves. Maybe they may have to try and find a way of separating the elective conference with the policy conference.
You know, I love the fact that you actually raised that point. Just speaking to some of the officials of the ANC that said that, you know, in the coming future, this actually should be a proposal that you separate the elective conference and the policy conference, perhaps.
Because clearly, and in fact, it's better today because the tensions are gone. So before the election of leaders, it's tensions. Nobody really focuses on policy. Because at the end of the day, it's really not about who leads, because they are guided by the document. So it's about what is it that they'll get out there. So we've been speaking to a number of leaders. They have not been able to tell us what has been resolved, because they haven't concluded that. Why? They were preoccupied with who is going to lead. Right now, they are busy with the election of the ANC members. So do you elect those people just to carry out that, or what you do first? You look at the policy, you refine it, and then once you've refined it, and then you say, who is fit for purpose in terms of leading? I think they probably are going to go to that direction, because otherwise it's really a disservice to South Africans.
And talking about the basic income grants, I mean, just earlier on this at the policy conference, there was also the debate about the feasibility of the basic income grant. Do you see delegates actually voting on this issue and deliberating that, listen, this must be a resolution of the ANC?
I think even if they don't agree on that, Natasha, I really suspect that they may vote for the extension of the 350. I mean, for the life of me, I can't see a governing party abandoning a tool which has been somehow helpful to some people just a year from elections. Of course, I honestly don't see them doing that. I mean, I can sit here and predict that end of March it will be extended, because somehow they need to resolve on this thing. You either don't do it or do it. Don't, dilly-dally. So clearly, I suspect when that report back is being done to us, so there'll be some clarity on that one.
Another resolution or another policy is that of the nationalization of the Reserve Bank, And I heard interesting conversations that Enoch Gotongani had early on with our colleagues Elgin Sampia and Sophie Mokoena. And when they asked him about it, listen, he had bluntly said that South Africa currently doesn't have the resources for that.
Listen, time and again, the debate on the Reserve Bank will crop up and die. It will crop up and die. Nothing is about to happen to the Reserve Bank in the immediate future, certainly, because the argument will shift. Is that the most pressing issue for South Africans right now? So do we have the money to deal with all those issues around the Reserve Bank? So, yes, delegates might have a particular view, but let's be honest, I don't see anything being done to it. Whether a resolution is taken, implementation will be very difficult to carry out.
And I love the fact that you've actually mentioned implementation, which brings me to my next question, How will the ANC ensure that they actually implement these policies? I mean, they're good on paper, but implementation is a problem. At the policy, just ahead of the policy conference earlier on this year, just speaking to, various commission heads, they had said that there is a discussion around, creating a committee that will ensure that if you, as an ANC member, deployed to a certain, SOE or entity, and you don't implement, you should then be held accountable by the party.
I think South Africans would want to see action now. I think they've had quite a lot in terms of what is it that the ANC will do if their deployees don't carry out anything, but nothing has come of it. In fact, a conference of this nature must actually say, in terms of the policies that are in place, you can go back to 1997, they just tweak it here and there. There's actually nothing new. What they should be focusing on is to say, we have had these policies, we may refine them here and there, but how do we implement them? Because implementing means serving South Africans, making sure that those needs that are needed are really carried out. So clearly, if we go in this fashion, I mean, look now, delegates are still walking out. I think they're from lunch, they are tired, they are not focused. So do you really expect something will come out that is very concrete? Yeah, it's really a big question.
2024 is actually just around the corner. This was labelled as a do-or-die moment for the ANC. We've seen the trajectory of the ANC at the polls. Last year, they dipped below 50%. Could we be seeing an ANC that is going to dip further below? I mean, just judging by what we've been seeing on social media, South Africans are tired.
South Africans are tired, but South Africans are very forgiving. I can tell you now, they will want to see how the new leadership reacts, particularly the president. Remember, he has an opportunity to do a bit of reshuffle. Someone like Fikile Mbalalula will have to vacate office. So will he only just replace that position, or he will then use that opportunity to strengthen his government? And then I think South Africans will watch and check if whatever mini reshuffle he does, whether it's major or mini, so then they will decide based on that if he is serious about changing the quality of their lives. As I've said, if they see that something is happening on the ground which is impacting positively on their lives, they probably will still give them another chance. But if nothing happens, 2021 was a serious warning shot. So in fact, even in their organizational report, they accept that the possibility of dipping below 50% is real. And here is then the question, Natasha. The party can see where it's going wrong, but somehow continues to do things the same way. True. I don't know. Maybe because we're not politicians, we don't know the kind of mindset that goes through the politician's mind. But yeah, that's how it is.
Zai, thank you so much. Well, we continue to give you rolling coverage here in Zinga, coming out of the 55th National Conference of the ANC here in Nasrec, the south of Johannesburg. And of course, we will be playing the waiting game as members of the media. We do expect to actually end proceedings quite late. So I guess it's a final push from the SABC team right here. But do stay tuned to our viewers as we give you all the rolling coverage here.
Continued stellar rolling coverage from every angle at Nasrec. There, my colleague Natasha Phiri, alongside our colleagues who are going to continue keeping you updated.